Hi, everyone. This is the Community Preservation uh, Committee public meeting on August 12th. It's 7 o'clock, and I'm going to start with a roll call, starting clockwise on my screen with Bill.
Bill Kameza, representing Natural Resources.
Excellent. And Jeff?
Collins, President, Select Board appointee.
Okay, Matt, you're going to have to come off mute.
Sure. Yeah, Matt Boger representing the Recreation Committee. Thanks.
Ed?
Ed Larner, representing Housing.
Great. Diane?
Diane Proctor, Select Board appointee.
And Burton?
Burton Flint, Select Board appointee.
And I'm Eve Eisenberg, Select Board appointee, and I suspect Nancy Nelson will be joining us shortly. Okay, we have a rather packed agenda, and we have some minutes to approve. We're going to talk about our process, with out-of-cycle applications. We're going to review our plan and our procedures. Anne's got to tell us about a nifty extension request report or form that she added. We're going to talk about our active projects, and then Mary's going to tell us about how she sees we could get some funding back. We'll have some public comments, and I have a feeling that Keith has a specific question about how much funding we're going to have this year. And then we're going to talk about when our next meeting is. Okay, so did everybody on the committee get a chance to look at the meeting, the minutes for May 21st and June 10th?
Yes.
Yeah. Does anybody want to propose that we approve those minutes?
I'd make a motion that we approve the minutes of both May 5th and June 21st, if I've got
I
those dates
second
right.
that motion.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, all those in favor, do we have to do a roll call vote for this, Diane, or is this something we can raise our
Usually
hand?
we do, believe it or not.
Okay, roll call vote. Bill?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
John, oh, sorry, John. Matt?
Approve. Yep.
Ed?
Yes.
Diane?
Aye.
And Burton?
Yes.
And I am I too, so those minutes for May 21st and June 10th are approved. Why is oh, there we go. Hello, Sue. Sue is joining us. This is great. Okay, so we have a couple of retired committee members here, Sue and John. And John asked that our out-of-cycle applications process be discussed first. John, just before, like 10 minutes before this meeting started, I sent to Anne all of those edits we've been changing back and forth, sharing today. And Anne, we didn't forward this to the whole committee because it's only one page. I figured we could just read it together real quick, if that's all right. And we were also reviewing this in the spring, so at least some of us are fairly familiar with the situation. And for context, this is page 12 and 13 of our procedures talking about of the plan, talking about how out of cycle or special application process applicants might be reviewed. Anyway, when we pull it up, it'll be more clear. Okay, so everybody, yeah, here's okay, sorry, this is not the plan, this is the manual, my bad. But this is our language on the special application process. And John, I would love it if you would come off mute and talk about our thoughts on this and give us a little context as well.
I think I'm off mute, and
Yes,
I think everyone except Jeff and Matt went through the painful and divided vote last year about the amenities building as a out of cycle application. So since then I brought first a proposal that would allow us a little more breadth in our ability to consider these urgent situations, and it I think was not popular, put it bluntly. So talking with Eve, we thought that a wiser approach, rather instead of a separate section somewhere, was to look at the special application process and see if we could add a few words that would give us more flexibility for a situation like the amenities building. And so that what you're looking at has the following three changes. And I think the first one is the one you can see in red under purpose, which is to simply expand several of the examples. The only examples that are currently in there are urgent land purchases and fires and floods in historic properties. This would add language that we could also look at situations. This is the examples language involving public health and safety and compliance with state and federal statutes and regulations. Pretty clearly, the amenities building would have been, I would have voted for it with language like that. So what we're really discussing is how to expand our authorizing language for special urgent situations beyond the old text. So that's proposal number one. The second is down here in what I call criteria 2. It's the second bullet. And it had language in the past. It had language in the past that sounded as if the only thing you could do under this special application process was an urgent land purchase. It had pretty detailed steps, and it did not use the word if. And so we're keeping the same text. In fact, Elizabeth Hughes, I think, added, used to be two of the conditions. She added a third. And it just seems to me it makes it clearer for everyone that these standards for requirements for emergency land purposes are if there's an application seeking funds for emergency land purchase. Because the old language, as I recall, was used by some people last year to say we can only do emergency land purchases. And I think the word if makes it clear that if such an application is filed, then these multiple conditions, including one new one that Elizabeth Hughes added, which I have no problem with at all. I'm happy to keep special criteria 2, just as long as we say if, so it's clear that it isn't exclusive or mandatory, and the only route. And then the third change, small.
John, I'm just going to
change.
interrupt for
Yeah.
1 second because I just noticed that if the special application is for proposed land purchase that the proponents have should be red, and that's my fault. So I apologize. I know this is freaking Ann out, but she's trying to make it red. But anyway, that's added language.
Yeah.
If that
Yeah.
wasn't clear.
And,
Okay,
yeah,
please continue, Ryan.
as I said, the if is to make it clear that if such an application is filed, these requirements, and to eliminate the idea that it was, because it didn't say if, the idea that it was mandatory or exclusive. And then finally, I thought it made more sense in the last, the bullet at the top of page 2. I thought the words of short duration was kind of vague, and I thought immediate was much more consistent with the language that you find in the purpose section, that you find in the purpose section about urgent, imminent, and so on. So I just think immediate is, in some ways, it's a bit conservative. It's just really means it's immediate now that this is needed. And that seems that once again to clearly fit into the amenities building application. It was definitely something the school committee wanted right away. So that's the whole idea, is simply abandon whatever Sue and I worked on way back when, and take a look at the special application process and give a little more flexibility or openness in the types of things we could take a look at, but still tightly defined, basically to land purchases, fires, floods, public health and safety, and regulatory compliance.
Thank you for that presentation, John. I appreciate it. And I see Burton, you have your hand up. Would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, so, John, I like this approach. I like having one compartmentalized in one sort of special criteria rules. I just looking at this, it appears that we've got 4 criteria that must be met, but one's conditional, which is it only applies if there's a land purchase, right? So each of these bullets must be met because the lead-in sentence is it meets the following additional criteria, not at least one of the following criteria. So I'm just looking at this and I'm not sure, and I know we don't want to make the the
Amenities.
build this, the amenities building being the entire reason for the change, but in my mind, we're doing it more because we were in a situation where there was additional funding that was available and would go unclaimed. So I'm looking, that first bullet is kind of I don't think the amenities building would have cleared that in my read of it, which is unaware of the opportunity to undertake the project. It had been getting planned for some time. They were looking to do it. I think they would say they were unaware that it was available for CPC funding. So with that as sort of lead in, do we want to make it that it's got to meet essentially, if it's not a real estate purchase, right, the 3 other bullets, or is it one of the bullets? I just put that as a question.
Yeah, I always thought it was all the other 3.
Okay.
And that's
And
why that's why bullet 2 looks so exclusive or so mandatory, and it needed the if. But I think-
I think it's good to have it be a pretty sticky wicket to get through, or else we're going to have a really, we're all going to miss all our holiday parties because we're going to be going to CPC meetings at the last moment. But I do wonder if maybe we need to tweak that first bullet to say they were unaware of the opportunity to undertake the project, perhaps, or they were unaware that the project would be eligible for CPC funding. I don't know, just throwing that out there, that would cover the prior scenario, or the proponents did not have the authority to identify such opportunity.
That's
Yeah,
fine with me.
Yeah, that's a good point, Burton. I mean, I guess I didn't read into the proponents were unaware of the opportunity to undertake the project so narrowly, meaning like undertake the actual project. But for me, the fact that they thought they couldn't fund it through us was that they were unaware of that they could undertake this project with us, like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But maybe
yeah.
I would in general. Diane, do you have other
I
comments?
agree with Burton. That's exactly the suggestion I was going to make, is that it needs to undertake CPC funding for the project is how I would change it. Undertake CPC funding for the project. And I just have to say, I'm not entirely enthusiastic about the change of very short duration rather than immediate. I rather prefer the of very short duration, but that's because the opportunity is of very short duration. I just think immediate puts a kind of urgency to things that may not be always the case. But I can live with either one, but I prefer the other language for some reason, John.
It's
not-
fine with me. That
Right.
was I just thought it should be tightened up. But
Okay.
I'm okay with either way.
Okay. Okay. Diane, can you clarify a little bit more about why very short duration is better than immediate?
Well, because
Just like what-
we know that the funding doesn't come through until the town votes. And then the funding comes in. It can be months later that the funding comes in. So, and then they have to then begin to apply that funding. So, I mean, because the opportunity is immediate, well, it may not be immediate because it may take them time to
Now I
get up.
understand.
I actually think that rather than, it does narrow it, but I think it's a kind of a constraint that is, at
Yeah.
least from my perspective, unnecessary. And I prefer the vaguer language of very short duration.
Yeah,
Okay, I
I'm
agree
with
with
you,
you.
Diane.
Yep.
As
Okay.
somebody that's
right.
constantly striking the words immediate from contracts and putting in without undue delay, which is kind of the same thing.
Okay.
I prefer it to be a little bit more open to interpretation, and a little bit.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no problem.
Matt, what have you got?
Sure. 2 things. First and foremost, thank you for addressing this. I know this was something that the whole community was kind of concerned about, and providing flexibility, I think, is great. My suggestion was going to be exactly what Diane said. I'm a little concerned about the timing of things and what can be applied to. I apologize. This is my first meeting. I'm thrilled to do to be here. I'd love to read that whole document. If there's a way that could be sent to me so I can take a look at it as well, that would be great. But I highly encourage flexibility to be able to utilize funds the state has to help that the town has to help the town's aspects. So thanks.
Okay, great. So Matt, this is the CPC manual for applicants and awardees, and it's about 20 pages long. It's a tiny little document, not the plan, but
Okay.
the manual, and it's
Procedures manual, yeah.
Thank you. The procedures manual is made available for applicants in the summer so that they can get their applications in the September deadline. So it's on our website right now, but I think, Anne, if you could would you mind mailing an extra copy to Matt when you get a chance?
I don't need it. I can, if just emailing me would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Either Anne or I will email it to you, Matt.
Great. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay. Jeff, do you have a comment?
I do. Am I unmuted? Thanks. Yes, on that last bullet, I wonder if instead of playing with words of short duration and immediate, if the treatment is something like the opportunity will pass before the next application round, or before funds in the next application round could be applied to the fund, because that's sort of the essence, right? Like, well, you missed the deadline. We have a deadline next September. Come back to us then. And folks might say, well, then this opportunity will pass. So, it's what we're trying to capture with short duration or immediate, and that's qualitative. And we could leave it like that, but if we wanted to sort of refine that a little bit more, that sort of reference could help.
So Diane, that's a comment on your comment. Do you want to comment on that, Diane?
No, I would love to. Thank you, Eve. Jeff, I don't agree, actually. And the reason I don't agree is because I think that it is not always as you suggested. Could you use your language again? Tell me what your language was again.
The opportunity will pass before the next.
Yep. That's not always the case. It's not that the opportunity will pass. It's that there is an opportunity. They didn't realize they could apply. Oh my gosh, now we can, and there are resources to do so. Please consider the application. And if we say that it will, pass if they don't do it, I mean, look at the amenities building. We're voting on it right now as a town. If that goes down, they may come back. So I mean, that would, given this language, that would have precluded that us considering. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, but this is for us to consider outside of our typical cycle.
That's exactly right.
We wouldn't have. I don't feel strongly about that. I think it's fine. A very short duration captures the spirit of the conversation. But again, without the benefit of the conversation around the amenities building last year before CPC, the proposed language around the first bullet, to my mind, also almost removes the concept of a deadline for us. Because if folks can come to us in November and say, I wasn't aware of the deadline, and so now I'm eligible to submit an application, that goes against what I understand that we've tried to do in terms of making people aware of the deadline, having people aim at the deadline, and receiving applications that are having these outside of cycle applications be extraordinary because a new opportunity has arisen post the deadline. So I'm, again, kind of in learning observation mode, but done a lot of grant applications, and when there's a deadline. And if something said, unless you didn't know about the deadline, then that means there's no deadline.
And Jeff, that's a great point. I think that I didn't mean to say you didn't know about the deadline,
Yeah, I agree.
but that you didn't know that the project was eligible for CPC funding. And I guess
That's
that would be a little
yeah.
bit of a case-by-case sniff test. And when the applicant comes to us, are they in good faith? The issue with the amenities building is whether or not it may have been that they were just behind the ball, but what they represented to us was that they were told that it was not eligible for CPC funding. They subsequently, under their own investigation, thought that it might be eligible, and so they came to us, in the late fall on that. And so they were investigating it before. So again, I don't want to make a special case define the rule, but it's not about the deadline; it's about eligibility.
Yep.
I want to jump in. I can't figure out how to raise my hand. I've lost the ability to raise my hand on the.
Go to the reactions
Bill.
button, Bill.
I'm looking everywhere. I can't find
Look,
it anymore.
it's under the react
That's what I
button at the
thought.
bottom.
You have to
Okay,
push
I'll get
way
back to it
down
next
with
time.
your cursor and it comes
It
up.
may
Yeah.
have, or Bill, it may have been revoked in your particular case.
That could very well be. I just want to say this. I'm a little concerned, Burton, about what you're suggesting, and I think Jeff's concerned. Because somebody is unaware that they're eligible is a really slippery slope. I mean, I really would be very careful. I'm afraid we could easily get inundated and have to do all sort of truth testing to see if that's true. I mean, the deadlines are there. It's not a big surprise. And I wouldn't make rules based on what happened last year with the amenities building. I mean, in a certain sense, that was backwards, in my opinion, from the start. They came before us without a complete plan, if you remember that. There were a lot of things that were unconstructed when it came in front of us. So I don't think we should be making the rules on that. I think John's proposal as it is something I could live with. But I'd be careful about expanding that to say, well, people were unaware, they didn't know about the deadlines, because all of a sudden we could be going into all sorts of seasons with lots of special events.
Well, Bill, thank you for your reaction, and Burton, to your comment as well, to Jeff's comment, tracing back the line of comments. I just want to point out that John and my idea was to give the committee more control of the situation instead of being handcuffed by our procedure manual, in my mind, we don't have to take 50 applications after our deadline because people are saying that they didn't see the deadline or whatever. We still have control of our process as a committee. But that if there is a situation, and the amenities building was just an example that was imperfect, of course, but before we were even allowed to discuss the amenities building, we were trapped by our own language and our own manual. And that's why we're looking at it now. Not to give free rein to everybody to come and change our process over, that we're doing a second round of applications. The planning department couldn't handle that. It's just out of our scope. But just to be able to look at one more thing after the deadline is over. Is that John, are we giving ourselves more flexibility here, or are we handcuffing ourselves further with this?
We are giving a couple new examples that seem very logical about public health and safety and regulatory compliance. And the rest of the language, I could perfectly accept that that they were unaware of eligibility. If that's what the committee wants to do, the language in bullet 1 does seem to narrow the situation where you could come before us, and the short duration language is fine with me. But the goal was to be able to be more available, just a little bit more available, and to eliminate the apparent text, make it if the apparent text that looked like it made land purchases the only thing you could do.
So I think John's done that with
John's done that.
with these. But I wouldn't add this other element of not aware of their eligibility. That's
okay. Yeah, I don't think Burton meant that, but thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it. Ed, we've been ignoring you, Ed. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, my feeling was that we spent most of our time talking about process, and that was the reason we didn't go forward with the application. And people talk to me, that usually they say there must be some way that there can be an exception, right? So in things, and I think that I'm reading the process thing that that's right there right now. Seems to me that covers things, saying that in all such cases we'll hear the procedures, except submission under the deadline. So over the deadline. So I think if we concentrate on that section rather than trying to figure out exactly what the exceptions have to be, we're making a broader, making it broader rather than too specific.
Okay, great, thank you. And just to be clear, I don't think we're gonna vote on this today, only because Matt asked for the whole context. What I would like to do is to continue and finalize our discussion today and then vote at our next meeting, if that wasn't clear. Keith, do you want to add anything to our discussion?
I think Sue has her hand up.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
Sue, okay. Sue, as an emeritus committee member, would you
I
like
guess I
to
don't.
make a comment?
Sure. Sue Felshen, 19 Sunnyside Lane, former member of the CPC. I'm a member of the planning board, speaking for myself. So this proposal I certainly consider to be a big improvement to the language that John and I developed earlier, which I was completely opposed to. No, I said I was completely
know.
opposed when
I
I
know you
volunteered
did.
to work on it.
I'm just enjoying the whole concept.
And I appreciate, I mean, in my opinion, under this language, the amenities building would still not be eligible to be considered out of cycle. And clearly that would be a matter for the committee to have to discuss, since others might feel differently. In the second bullet, which has been approved by the addition of if the special application is for land purchase and one of the following with the extra criteria, for clarity, it should read the proponents have at least one of the following. And as a final point of this language,
Okay.
immediate, another problem with immediate is that it's unclear about whether it means the opportunity has just popped up but is of short duration, or it just popped up but it is of long duration. I'm going to disagree with some people and say if something pops up suddenly in the middle of the cycle, but it will be available for until the next cycle would roll around, you shouldn't be eligible. There's a cycle for a reason, because the committee has its work to do, its available resources, and it shouldn't consider every opportunity the moment it pops up just because people say, well, we can apply, let's apply. It would be opening floodgates and would be an unreasonable burden not only on the committee members, but on town staff. So that's only my personal opinion, and
So
there
Sue,
we
is that an
are.
argument for a very short duration or for immediate or neither?
It's an argument against immediate. I actually thought that Jeff's language was pretty good, but a very short duration is at least better in my mind than immediate.
Okay, I think we're back to a very short duration
Yeah,
and
I never could have
Yeah.
changed it.
But I wanted to bring up that it's not only the issue goes both ways of what does immediate mean. It doesn't because of funding, it doesn't have to be too immediate, but also that immediate isn't enough because it has to clarify that it will go away. It's not just that it arose immediately, but that it will not last so long. So that's two reasons to stick with very short duration. That's all. So thank you for asking me back to
thank you,
comment on
Sue.
this.
This is great. Okay, Keith.
Thanks very much, Keith Bergman, Chair of the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. Speaking as a retired town administrator from Littleton, where about 15 years ago we adopted the Community Preservation Act when I was there, and we routinely used two forms, and one of them was an application form. The other one, which preceded it, was a determination of eligibility form. And since some of the concern, and I dare say right now, I would bet you that most of the people who might want to apply for CPA funds now know, because of the recent example with the school department, the importance of coming in and checking things out with the CPC as early as possible. But the roster changes all the time. There are new committee members and new staff members coming on all the time, And I think it might be helpful for you to give yourself a safety net here by giving the opportunity, not a requirement, that if anyone wanted to, you encourage people to come in with their proposed project and talk to you, I would hope, beforehand. And if you wanted to go through the step of actually making a determination of whether that project is eligible or not for CPA funding, you're not saying that you will fund it. But
Right.
plenty of community preservation committees out there are making that determination separately from the applications. And it may help you dissuade some people from applying or putting people on notice who should have known better that funds were available for their project. Give them a step that they could have taken, or that they should take in the future. I'm fine as someone who's likely to apply under this if circumstances permit, out of cycle, that going to try hard not to try hard to do it on time, but that I have no issues with the proposal that you have up on the screen. I just had the suggestion that you might want to protect yourself from the late filed inquiry that coulda, woulda, shoulda gotten a reading out of you much earlier that they're not eligible.
Thank you
So-
for that comment, Keith. That's great insight from your previous experience. I appreciate that. And I think that I could be wrong, and Burton can correct me, but I believe that when we divide these projects up into groups of two, part of our job is to figure out if the project is eligible for funds as we're going through the application. But Burton, do you have a comment for Keith?
Well, I just would point out that would likely potentially somewhat increase the legal fees of this committee. I think that most of the time when we get into a question of eligibility, all of our projects go to town council for review that they're eligible for CPA funding, essentially late in the process. To use the committee, the amenities building as an example, I think some people looked at it and thought that might be eligible, and some people thought it might not. We ultimately, I think, got a read from our CPA liaison, and he said gray area. So I think we'd be wanting to go to legal counsel on in a situation like that, which I just if we were to have that two-step process, we would potentially be spending money on legal fees to screen projects before a complete application was put in front of us.
Another good point.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do think that Anne gives a lot of guidance to applicants.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
for sure. Jeff, do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, quick comment, not on the substance, but in trying to do a little reading myself, I looked at the Community Preservation Coalition's website for application deadlines, etc. And it refers, you may know this, to Concord's kind of emergency application procedure of a version from 2010. So when we finalize this language, we might send it to Community Preservation Coalition to update what we're using.
That's a good idea. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So if there's no other comments about that, I really appreciate this discussion. I especially appreciate Sue and John taking extra time from their multiple committees and things that they're doing to come join this committee in this discussion. I would like to give Anne and myself a second chance to fix the language one last time and send it around. I'm trying to institute a packet of stuff for us to read by the Thursday before our meetings, so we have time to look at things, because if you're like me, you have no time that day to read whatever is coming at you. So maybe expect the Thursday before our Tuesday meeting, the new language of this thing that we're talking about, the special applications process, and then we'll hopefully take a vote on it at our next meeting. And if we need to have more discussion, I'm up for that too, because I think it's a big deal to change our procedure this way. So I want to make sure everyone's on the same page. And Sue and John, you're welcome to come back, but I'm hoping that it will be a vote on what we've just discussed today. Okay? Okay, moving on with our agenda. If
Just
nobody
want to
has-
say we're going to miss Sue and John.
Oh, yes, we're going to miss Sue and John.
Well, I would welcome the chance. I'd welcome the chance to be at the next meeting
Okay, cool.
I can't vote, but I'm hoping that this could clear the committee. I think
Yeah.
it gives a much better, what shall we say, a much better look in our standing in the town.
This will be your legacy, John. This is great. Okay, did everybody get a chance to read the CPC plan before our meeting? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we, I'm unsure how to, it's such a big document. I don't really want to go through it page by page, but does anybody have any like clear thoughts that they want to bring up about the plan? Because we will get a chance to review it again in the winter after this round of applications. But if nobody has any comments on the plan, then I'm going to request that we vote to approve it so that we can move on with our lives. Anyone? No comments? Oh, Diane, yes.
I move that we accept the plan as presented and amended. I thought the emendations were thoughtful and effective. I did not see anything from that I wish to change. That doesn't mean I noticed everything. And Bill may have noticed something that I missed, but I move that we accept it. If there's a second, we can then have a discussion.
One comment I have, if I may, it lists the current committees on page 1, the committee members and their terms, and I think that those are incorrect. For the 2026 committee, it shows most of their terms expiring in 2025.
That was the only comment I had too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thought we fixed that.
It's sort of a copy paste error, probably. That
I
carried
didn't
over.
even notice that. Thank you.
Well, you can tell how far I got in the plan. No, I'm just kidding. I did read the whole thing. I did read the whole thing. And I would commend the folks that edited it. A lot of thought and care went into it. It was quite evident, and it's nice to see the thing get updated and us not refer to things from 2015 as late breaking, for example. So that's great.
Okay. So I think that was left there because we were talking about this plan over the spring and we were hoping to get it approved before we actually switched the committee members. But I think I think that's probably very easily fixed and doesn't really change the plan. So just let's all pretend that the correct committee is on the second page there. Ed, do you have any comments about the plan?
Just just because I had some time, I put it through AI on Microsoft Copilot, and it reduced not the appendix because those are not changeable. So the 38 pages of what we're proposing was reduced down to 23, and I can send that around. I don't want to judge how well the AI worked, but you guys are the experts on this to see if maybe they just were trying to make it a little more concise and clarify certain things.
Ed, I just love that you did that. But I think we'd like to save that for the next round of this plan. It gets changed every year as far as I can tell. So I would definitely like you to send me a copy of that. Okay. And I will take a look at that for sure.
It's not, everybody thinks AI is not reliable, but I thought it was worth a chance just to look at something.
We use it in my firm too. But I think there's a motion hanging out with, it's kind of sad little motion out there. Does anybody want to second Diane's motion that we?
I second the motion.
Okay,
Bill? I would second it as amended to update the term of the members listed on page 2. Yeah.
And I accept that amendment.
Okay, great. All right, in that case, Keith, I hope you don't mind. We're just going to go ahead and vote on our plan. Ed?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Diane?
Aye.
Burton?
Yes, thanks.
Keith,
Matt?
you had a comment.
Yes.
Jeff?
Aye.
And I am aye as well, so that we are approving our plan. I'd love to hear what you have to say, Keith. Do you not like our plan?
I would like to see well, I'm assuming it's the 74-page document that's labeled.
Yeah, it's a big one. That's
plan,
right.
not a lower number. But I was sorry to not see the pie chart and that was in the previous plans that's indicated what portion of the revenues go for each of the 4 purposes. I'd also encourage you to strike a total. Right now, all you have on where you list the amounts of money that are appropriated at each town meeting, nowhere is a total struck. So I'm not sure what the total amount of money is. I can't tell from this plan what the total amount of money is or how the total amount of money has been spent. And those would be useful things to know.
Okay.
Thanks.
I have just made notes of that, and I'm sure that's going to come up in our minutes as well. And we're going to add this to the AI review of this as things, the pie chart and the totals, and get these things into the next version. And I apologize for not accepting that into this version. We're just really, really far behind in approving this plan, Keith. So I hope you don't mind if we put that into the next round, which will likely be my responsibility in a few months. Okay.
I want to thank Keith. I didn't have the two side by side, Keith. So I didn't see
Yeah,
that elimination. I mean, that was really good catch because those pie charts are very helpful.
they are helpful. Yeah, I have that down here. Okay. I have a feeling we're going to have a couple other changes too. All right. Next up, oh, Anne, you get to give your presentation on your extension request. Would you like to do that?
Sure.
This is very exciting, folks.
Right. Very
No,
exciting.
I'm actually really excited.
So Eve and I spoke over the summer. Since the last meeting was canceled in July, we thought it wouldn't be fair really to applicants to delay posting the application procedures, to this meeting. So we did post it with the only change being the dates really from the last manual that was posted last year. The one page that I pulled out was the reporting, the project status report form, and I did update that and and worked with the the town council on it. And of course, the one that I've posted here isn't quite the one that we used. So it's going to take me actually a couple of minutes to find it, but I'll give you sort of a preview. Just one second.
So the purpose of this is to try to get people to be more responsible about spending down their money. This is coming out of the big project report that we were looking at last meeting.
Right. So the status report in the past just had sort of a checkbox to show whether it's an interim status report, final. But now we added an extension request, and rather than leave them sort of blank, I took language from the memoranda of understanding to remind everyone to, of what they agreed to, and put that right into the project status report. So, so the key change was that now there's a reminder here about the extension requests. And when I do send out the MOU or grant agreements, I fill in the dates at the top, so they're aware of, what their grant deadline is. They don't need to do the calculations.
And is
there's
it,
actually an updated version that town council has reviewed, and they added additional language here under the interim status report as well. So I can find that.
Yeah, so we're talking about this extension request paragraph, if that wasn't clear. Diane?
Thank you. The 30-month period begins when? We maybe don't have to be explicit in this description, but if the awardee anticipates that the project will extend beyond the 30-month grant period, beginning something, then prior to the end of such period, an extension. I just think that some specific language as to when that 30-month period begins.
Doesn't it begin at the project award date, 7/1?
I would think so. I mean, if that's just self-evident, then we don't have to say anything, but we have run into problems, as you know, with people holding on to grant money for long periods of time. And if we think it's obvious, explicit, and we don't need to state it, then we don't need to state it. More language is not always helpful, but it struck me that being a little more specific might be helpful, but I'd love to hear other comments. Thank you.
That's great. And is it clear when the 30-month period starts in the memorandum of understanding?
Yes, so when I sent out the memorandum of understanding, I do put the project award date and on
Okay.
the which is July 1st.
Thank you.
Okay. Bill?
This may be unnecessary too, but when I looked it over earlier, I would have loved to have seen the amount of money, the grant, how much was originally granted and how much was spent. There's a percent that's asked, but it'd be interesting to know, because I lose track of how much these grants were. So I don't know if that's possible in this form or with
You
other
are in
processes.
luck, Bill, because we are coming up to that in item number 7 on our agenda.
Okay.
today. Yes. Okay.
And
we're-
I'm sorry you lose track because the rest of us don't.
I know you don't. I know.
Yeah, but we'll help you along, Bill. Hello. Yes.
All
Thank
right.
Yes, we're going to talk about that. But anyway, but I just want to add something to Ann's presentation, which was our discussion that out of my couple of years here on the CPC, I've heard a lot about how we need to somehow monitor our projects or be on top of like what people are doing with our projects. But I just want to remind everybody that the committee doesn't really have any teeth to force people to do one thing or another. We're not like a regulatory committee. We're just, a bunch of volunteers who are looking through projects and trying to award funds responsibly on behalf of the town. But what happens after that, it's gotta be, managed by the town manager. At the end of the day, it's up to her to make sure these things come through. But with this extension request, we can at least emphasize that we want them to spend the money and the time, or tell us why not, because otherwise just time passes and Ann doesn't get these reports and we don't know what's happening. So I think it's a little bit of teeth, if that makes sense. Okay. Moving on to our summary of active projects. Ann, do you want to throw that up there again?
Sure.
We're going to talk about this again.
Okay, so
And then, and I can't remember.
Eve,
Yeah.
can I just ask you a question? So let's say
Yeah.
Carrie has to do something, but what can she do?
A good question. Well, I mean, Ann, what did we come up with some repercussions?
right, that's really, it's not my call. Right, and it's real, and the responsibilities of the Community Preservation Committee is really written right into the Community Preservation Act. So I don't think it's up to,
It was an unfair deflection on my part. I think she should call like the project manager and, say what is happening to our, our project, what is going on down there. If it depends on which department is doing it, or if it's, I don't know, the floors are not getting sanded fast enough at the Scout House. She can call them up and ask them, or send minions to go figure out what's going on with that project better than we can, a group of volunteers. That
Okay.
was my own.
Well,
Keith may
Well-
have a response.
I just very quickly. So our agreements, when most of our projects are, of course, are with town departments, right? Right. So obviously then the town manager's direct responsibility and oversight over their performance, right? And then the agreements that we have, the grant agreements that we do that are with non-town parties, right, are signed by the town. So the party responsible for enforcing the terms of that grant agreement is the town government, right, which is the town manager. I think when I think about a project that became a troubled project, we did ask for updates. We did ask for inquiry. I'm thinking of the Giroux Park project, but then it was really the select board and the town manager that got involved there, and we're looking at the oversight of how that had been managed by a town department. So
Okay.
I think, sometimes, and Eve's aware of this, we get asked to get pulled in and sort of, pull a chain because we've provided funding, but I think often to your point, Eve, it's not so much deflection, it's looking to who's the appropriate authority, who's assigning authority on the agreement. We're an agent of the town, but it's really the town manager that's responsible for enforcing the terms of the contract that they've signed.
Thank you.
I've also signed the memorandum of understanding, and I don't feel like it's my responsibility to keep track of that.
Well, I mean, but the memorandum of understanding, again, there's a reason it's not a contract, right? Because it's
True.
essentially an intra-town memorandum, right? An MOU. And so the responsibility to make sure that the town's performing under that is under the direction of the town manager, as her title makes perfectly clear, that she's responsible for managing that.
Great.
Okay.
And while you're getting up the project status reports, Keith, can you share some insights here on this?
Sure. First, I think Burton has it correct that, look at the agreement that's signed. And in the case of the trust, we have a contract that's between the town of Concord and the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. Those are the two parties that are mentioned. Those are the two parties. The CPC is mentioned, and the chair does sign the agreement because there are references to recommendations that the CPC has made in bringing it to town meeting. I think what you might want to think through is that what, and not now, but just as part of the process, if you find that the 30 months, which by the way is in your handbook,
Yes.
There's a sample contract that's included in the materials that the applicants get. And it's on page 27 of which they may not all get to. But it does say that there's 30 months following, it says 30 months following town meeting is what it says, which I would suggest maybe isn't what you mean. 30 months after April, when they don't get the money, they don't get the money until July, but that's sort of a side note.
Yeah, that was the reason for my question about exactly when does it begin? Go ahead. Yeah.
Right. And so I know when my contract begins because it says so. It says that it happens to be dated July 1st, and so the reporting every 6 months and the time limit if the funds haven't been what happens.
Right.
But I think that the process that follows, I do think that as the receiver of the status reports, the CPC is certainly a first stop for an applicant to say, hey, what's happening with the project that was approved, and if you're not satisfied with the progress and think that maybe 50 months is too long, 60 is more than was intended. Procedurally, I think you'd want to make a recommendation to the town manager to take appropriate action there. Now, one of the actions that would require CPC decision, though, is in the case where the original purpose of the funds was not used, and what's the disposition? The disposition would be the town meeting would need to, on the recommendation of the CPC, move those funds somewhere else, so that when Junction Village $1 million wasn't spent, that your recommendation, and it went to town meeting, was to have that $1 million get moved from that project into the community housing reserve. And so that's a procedure of how you take unspent money and it goes somewhere. And then another town meeting action on your recommendation only, you're the gatekeeper, would be needed to take the money out of a reserve to be put for some other use. So I think it may be well just to spell out what all the steps are involved in the process, because it's not, Keith, I don't think it's a simple, yeah.
Just to clarify, you're saying it, you believe that to claw back funding from a project that's gone unspent after 30 months, we've got to go to town meeting?
Yeah, actually, Mary's going to present about this in a minute.
You
Yeah,
wanna-
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
wanna
the
talk
case with
about-
Junction Village was kind of a special case because we were trying to redirect it in sort of off cycle. But is that your understanding that to claw back? I mean, we have
Well,
funds returned all the
yeah,
time
well,
by projects that come in under budget.
Yep.
Well, sure, right, it's a project that comes in under budget. It left all the money, Junction Village left all the money on the table. The Habitat House on Com Ave left $240,000 on the table. And everyone was in agreement. It was an easy one to do because the applicant and everyone understood that that 240 wasn't needed. But it did require going back to town meeting to redirect that money.
Okay. Great. Well, I think actually Mary's going to talk about that a little later too, and we can ask her some questions because she's been researching this for us.
Do you want to talk about it now, Eve? That it's
Yeah, all right, fine. Let's just do it now, Mary. Let's go. Do
okay.
it.
Actually, Keith, the method for clawing back the money is more complicated than I was aware of. But let's assume that whatever the process is, we've identified money that is either unspent or the town is no longer going to go ahead with this project. So we have money available. We know that that money has to come back to CPC. It doesn't go to the general fund. We also know that it has to go to if it came from a reserve, it has to go back into that reserve. The question that I pose to legal counsel is, does it require a vote of town meeting to take that money back and make it available for other projects before we've even identified what that project might be? And his answer was no. In other words, we don't have to go to town meeting and ask people, the money that you approved to spend on X, the town is no longer doing X for whatever reason. Are you okay with us putting it back in the CPC general fund? And his clear answer was no. We might want to do that, but we don't have to.
What?
And we might want to do that. I mean, I'm hearing people that are saying, we voted money for dredging and we want the town to vote that we're not going to fund dredging. And it's not a town meeting vote. It really is up
Right.
to the CPC to bring that back. That's what I've learned.
And Mary, I would
Thanks,
say
Mary.
what town meeting votes for is the appropriation of those funds in accordance with the typical terms and conditions of the CPC grant agreement. And the
That's
grant
right.
agreement says spend your money in 30 months. So that's why I'm sitting here scratching my head. If you haven't spent it within 30 months, you're not within the conditions of the grant agreement, and the agreement says we can take the funds back.
Right.
Yeah, that to me is a different question that I'd have to, it makes sense to me, but again, I would want legal counsel to look at that. My question to legal counsel was, do we need the vote of town meeting to claw back money that when we've abandoned a project for a very good reason?
So-
And
so
his answer was no.
Mary,
That's
when
what
you
I thought.
Yeah, you
Mary-
Me
did.
too.
talking about taking money back, it may or may not have anything to do with the time period running out. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yes.
It may or may not, right.
Oh, okay.
So Mary
That's
and
not
I were
quite what I'm
discussing,
saying.
Mary and I were discussing this, and this was really, a question because we've got some money out there, particularly for dredging and things like that, that is just sitting
Right.
there. And the
Right.
But
question is, we have to go
that's
back
out
to
there for
town meeting, and guess what? We don't. And we learned that 2 years ago. Do you all remember when we got into that mess in which we had people voting to transfer the money and then voting to bring it back? And it ended up that we did that, but then we discovered we didn't have to. So we put everybody through a very complex procedure that was unnecessary. Burton, do you disagree with that?
Well, I would want to dig into it more as to whether we could claw it back without the grantee being in breach of the grant agreement. It must if that's what town council is saying, it must be a provision of the law rather than the MOU or the grant agreement.
Yes.
Okay.
So then my question is how, if it's not an infraction of the grant agreement, and it's just, we've abandoned the project, how do we know that the project is officially abandoned?
I think it'd probably be the applicant, right?
So we get a letter from the applicant saying, I'm abandoning my project and I don't need this money
Well,
after.
for example, in the Warner's Pond dredging, right? The NRC is no longer going to spend that money on dredging. So, I guess the process would be to get a letter from them if you want a letter, but they're not going ahead to spend that money.
Let me speak to that a little bit because that's what we're talking about.
Go ahead.
What's
Yeah.
happened is that a recommendation was given to the NRC to not go ahead with dredging. They have not officially approved of the recommendation that was given to them from the task force yet. That vote is coming up on August 27th. So I'm very sure they're going to approve of it, and they're going to approve, I think, a committee, a management committee. Now, I know the management committee is aware that some money has been put aside for dredging, and I know that they understand that is not, they don't have access to. Well, there is no committee. The task force understands that money is not been put aside for general maintenance in the pond. My guess is, of course, they're probably going to ask for some money, perhaps, but that may not be they know that may not be under the original dredging, so they're aware of that.
Yeah.
So the dredging, they understand is a separate one. There's another grant, of course, one for just Warner's Pond, whatever it was, remediation, which they have spent some, and they'll be spending some more on that. That's the hope.
Okay.
But anyway, that vote and those letters will be coming after that, Mary. That's my sense.
Okay. See, I guess what I'm learning by listening to you all tonight is the process for, clawing back money so that you can put it to good use,
Yeah.
is still needs some work maybe. And I guess I'm unclear on who has the authority to actually say, you didn't live up to the agreement. We want to put this money to use over here. We're taking it back. That's something that you have to work out. My question was much simpler than that, which is to take it back, do you need a vote at town meeting? That was all I was asking.
Mary, thank you so much for really getting to one of the kernels of this
One of them.
situation. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
I just wanted to ask if after what Bill said, if the dredging is more than 30 months out already, then it's not in compliance with its grant agreement, correct? So we don't have to ask them for an official letter because they're not in compliance. Is that right? Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
that may be the case, Eve, but I think just as the way we interact with the community, I think it would be more, I think more gracious to have them come before us and say, gosh, we understand you're not using the money, for them to say, yes, we're not using the money. And for us to say, all right, we're withdrawing those funds and we're putting them back in our general funds.
Yeah.
Or blump, blump, blump. I mean, I
Right.
just think, yeah, we can just say too bad, blah, blah. But I think doing that a little more with greater propriety, I think is prudent. So that's just my sensibility.
And
I'm
then,
kind of
and then,
old-fashioned.
And as of say as late as May, that decision had not been made not to dredge.
That's
So,
right.
I mean, so it was, it's fairly very quickly that we made that decision.
Yeah,
Recent-
hot off the press news. That's right.
I mean, and Eve, if we look at the list of projects that we funded, there are some that are pretty long in the tooth, and we've always been pretty flexible. The one that always sticks in my mind is the field where they're getting rid of
Right.
the invasives, right?
Right.
And that's and
Yeah.
they're spending, $8,000 a year. It's been going on for like 8 years. It's been the practice of this committee to engage this team with the applicant and find out what's going on. It tends to wax and wane a little bit. Every once in a while, we look at this when we've got a little bit of an ebb in the workload of the committee, and we say, look at these applications we haven't heard about this thing for so long, or this thing. So let's look at it. There are other special cases like the dredging where we've got at least $600,000 that is in applications which would appear not to be going to be spent, that we would want to take a more proactive approach. And but
So
I
you're
wouldn't
saying-
want to just have a policy where we unilaterally start revoking things as soon as they pass 30 months, because we are dealing with town processes, permitting processes, community organization processes that take time.
Oh, I completely agree, and it's definitely a case by case basis, depending on who the applicant is, of course. I don't know how easy it's gonna be to get the people who are in default, for lack of a better term, to come before us and talk to us about why they're needing an extension or something, which is why we did the little extension request form. Hopefully that will help with communication on what's going on. But this is your cue, Ann, to pull up that list that we love this gigantic chart that you've made of our projects and where they're at.
All right, one thing I would just quickly say is that we're not the only one watching this. FinCom watches it too. And when they think that we've got a lot of money sitting out there and we're not expending it, some of us are grilled about that. That might be you, Eve, who gets grilled. I certainly was. I'm sure Burton Field had some moments like that too. I mean, FinCom watches that pretty carefully
Noted. Thank you, Diane.
when they have time.
Oh. Okay. Hey, Ann, is this any different than the last time we looked at it, back in in June?
Yes, so I did an update both for, June 30th, 2025 and July 1st, 2025. So that you can see the beginning balance for this fiscal year. And sort of what's in process.
So Bill, does this help?
I think, yes, I had seen it, but I didn't really read it carefully because it was turned sideways. I didn't pay attention to it enough. So yeah, it helps.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, let's show us the new ones here that you got reports from or that we're paying attention to, especially the one Burton brought up about the field.
Right, so it's been a very busy summer, and so I actually have not sent out a second letter because part of the reason was because we were updating the extension request form, and I did send out all of the MOU and grant agreements. So now that the form has been reviewed by you all and by town council, I can send out the form to all of the projects that are over the 30 months.
Great.
And
Do you have in your head which projects those are, or should we look closely at this to figure that out?
Right, you and I had
By the way,
sat
for
down
doing
and looked
the
at them.
MOUs.
I think it's anything over, what would it be? FY23.
Yeah.
So anything that was done in FY24, 25 is fine. But I think the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail.
It's only 30% complete.
Chamberlain Park, drinking fountains, Giroux.
So the idea is we send these guys new forms with the extension request and make a note of that they are overdue, I suppose, and ask them to ask for an extension. And hopefully that will work.
Getting back to that original point, I do like that extension language in the update form. I thought it was good.
Yep.
Good.
Which one's your field, Burton? I'm going to call it Burton's Field.
Oh no, this is it's right there at
Is it Haywood Meadow?
Haywood Meadow. Thank you, Bill.
Haywood Meadow.
We've
Oh,
had
FY12,
people come in
look
and
at that.
explain why they use that or how they use it, actually.
Well, not the wall. So there's a restoration and
Right.
preservation. It's the 910. So FY12. That's the
Yeah,
it's 13 going on 13 years. They've still got $4,000 out there, and every other year they rent a couple goats.
That's yeah.
It also says 100% complete.
Maybe it's not
project.
Haywood Meadow, Burton. What do you think? Is it a different place?
No, it's definitely Haywood Meadow, the one I'm thinking of, and
No,
and I mean if you look at that,
definitely
yeah,
Haywood Meadow. Yeah.
FY12, and it's this tiny little amount. I mean, most of it's been spent, but it's
Yeah. I know they have these plots over there that they're constantly trying to expand the amount of native plantings.
yeah,
And that's what you're talking about. Sure.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
Removing invasives.
That's NRC then, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this one may be one where they've sort of stopped at least dipping into the CPC funds. I mean, at this point, it's almost not worth the effort, I'm going to guess, on administratively for.
I bet you're right. Yeah. I haven't heard them discussed. Survey.
Okay.
Huh.
Eve, just a quick point. I guess this is a question to Anne in terms of how frequently we receive status updates. I suppose you only get the information if we get an update from the applicant, but I know, for instance, that the tree planting project is shown as 0% complete. And I know from my in-house tree planting expert that is making significant progress. But if we don't have an update, it wouldn't be reflected in our report. So is there some work we need to do to pull the information from the applicants to, at whatever frequency, to get the information when we want to have a comprehensive update?
Right. So, I mean, this does show progress in terms of, you know, spending money. So, and money that's encumbered. But right, they haven't provided a status report.
And
So
how
they
about
did
the
spend
Senator
money last
too?
year and they have, right, 33,000 encumbered, and there's no money left once that encumbrance is spent.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So, and isn't it twice a year that we get these reports?
Oh, sorry. So I try to update the status report quarterly so that you have, you know, quarterly figures for the finances. But yes, you all had requested reports in the spring and in October, so twice a year.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe we can get an in-house request for a report to be submitted, because it's probably been more than 6 months.
Run it up the chain.
Okay, great, thank you. And what other projects really stick out? Here's a drinking fountains, yeah.
Right, but they've reached out several times saying that they're still working on it, so but they haven't really provided a report.
I think the
Yeah.
Warner's Pond really stands out. The dredging, there it is. The $500,000 for dredging.
Yeah.
And boat launch improvements. I didn't realize it was also boat launch improvements. Okay. Because there's been discussion around that. That'll be coming up very soon about the boat launch, not about the dredging. But I don't expect that to be more than, say, $50,000 to $75,000. And I'm not sure I don't know where that stands until after the NRC approves of the recommendations. So but that's money that I think a lot of that will end up being returned. And I think the NRC should be in touch.
You know, Mary and I didn't raise my hand, but may I just ask a question?
Yes,
Yeah,
Diane,
yeah.
please.
Okay, thank you. What I can't remember, and Mary, I wonder if you discerned whether that money that we pull back has to be used in that category or whether it can be used in the general funding. Now, my thought was general funding, but I could be wrong. What did you learn, Mary?
When I asked that question explicitly, if the money came from a reserve for open space or recreation, then it has to go back to the reserve. But if it came from the general fund, it can go back to the general fund.
That makes
Okay, thank
sense.
you. That's what I thought, but I just wanted that clarification. Thank you
Yep.
very much.
Mhm. No,
That makes sense.
my pleasure.
Okay,
So
we
amazing that when you think something is true, it really is.
right.
It's not just magical thinking.
Eve, a question of digging into that point a little bit. If we looked back at some of those totals, say FY22, whatever, and using Warner's Pond as an example, what if rescinded funds retrospectively put any of those buckets under the 10% directive? Would we
An
sort of
excellent question, Jeff. I have no idea.
hug and say, well, we gave it our best effort, or kind of put that into a reserve or something like that?
That's the reason I asked the question, actually, Jeff.
Hmm.
But you know, it seems to me rather unreasonable to have us have to go retrospectively 5 years ago. You know, did that now throw us under the bus in terms of distribution at that time? I think then, to my mind, it should be going forward, but that doesn't mean that the law would agree with me.
I would hope that a good faith distribution for the year would stick, so to speak. And then if something happened and it didn't, get spent, that's not part of the calculation. What do you think, Anne?
Right, so I've asked this of Stuart Saganor of the Community Preservation Coalition, and he did offer to come in to explain it to the town of Concord, because he said it's been a while since he's met with you all. He did say last round that they do recommend that the town place the 10% in each of the categories first, and then draw from that, so that when
Yeah.
so it's confusing to explain, so that maybe Burton can explain it, so that
Well, it makes sense.
so
So
that-
first you allocate the funds to a category so that if they are rescinded, they fall back into that category and your 10% is met.
Right, okay.
but
It makes
Concord hasn't
sense.
traditionally done that.
It's going to make people at town meetings eyes go like this, but yeah, it would
Right.
be.
It's
makes- I can s-
basically, you're setting up a reserve practically for practical.
Practically
purposes.
speaking, yeah.
Right.
Right.
Practically
So
speaking,
they
it's a
recommend-
reserve that you immediately draw out of, but if the funds are rescinded, they go back into that reserve and you meet your 10%. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I mean, for that year, so my question, that could be an advisory position, but is it a requirement?
That would just make it simple.
It does make it simpler, I agree.
In the long run, if the money
Yeah.
does get returned, then you know where it came from and you know that you're meeting your 10%. But if you haven't taken that step, you would need to recreate it and try to sort out whether you did meet the 10% for that year or not.
Oh.
I know.
And let's talk about maybe whether or not we're going to do that for this next round of funding. And we could tell everybody at the September meeting, which actually is before our deadline of applications come in, what we think. We could talk about that some more then. It's an interesting, maybe Stuart could come in and present to us in September. That would be cool. Then we could talk about it. What do we think? Yeah. Okay.
Should I
Um,
reach out to him?
what's that?
Should I reach out to him to see?
Yeah, let's. Does anybody else want to hear from Stuart and hear a little bit more about this? Because already my head is kind of spinning, thinking about like the past of it's like a time travel situation where the past is the future and the future is the past. You're trying to calculate things. I mean, just starting this now helps going forward, but what happens in our past if we end up taking back money that wrecks our percentages? What do we
Yeah.
do? Is that
Well,
anyway,
for me, it's like
that's
talking
fine.
to Keith. It's always interesting. You always
Yeah.
learn something. So Saganor is a really very impressive guy.
Can we see if he's available to speak to us?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, great. Our next meeting is on September 16th. And I guess our deadline is the 19th, and then we're going on our site visits in October, 2 weeks after that. So hopefully everybody can be to that October site visit date. And now let's just move to public comments. Before we wrap up, does anybody in the Zoom room have anything they want to chat with the CPC about? No? Okay. Hi, Linda. Okay, Mary, thank you so much for that. That's really helpful.
Oh, you're
And
welcome.
I want to thank everybody for coming to today's meeting. I know many of us are on vacation or are hoping to go on vacation. And so I appreciate that August date is kind of hard to get to. I appreciate that. And with that, I guess I'm just going to close out our meeting. Oh, Ed, sorry, Ed. Yes. Ed, what are you saying? You're on mute.
I'm sorry. Last meeting, I suggested that we invite school kids.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe I forgot this. Yes, Ed has a public comment. Tell us
Well,
about what's going on with the high school.
I did connect with both Dr. Hunter, Andrea, the school board, Dr. Williams, Will Kazima.
Amazing. My son. You
Meza.
talk to my son?
I was going to ask you if you had, would check with him. I sent him an email. It turned out he was in the White Mountains. This was right at the end of the school district. So, but I did talk to I think Trudy, I can't remember, one of the other teachers, and everybody seems like a positive thing to happen, but they do have their own kind of curriculum about how to do done. So once they come back, open up the school, I think we will be able to get some of the kids to come to our site visits. And the long range idea, of course, would be to have them follow through but I think for the first year, we would probably just have them accompany us with the site visits in October.
Yeah, did you get, I haven't heard if you got any information from those teachers yet. Did they come circle back to you about what they wanted to do with their kids?
This was one of the other teachers that I didn't get hold of Will, but I did get hold of one of the other teachers, and they basically said they would have to wait and see how because this is not a full year a project right now. It'd be just the site visit. So and then we could reevaluate it as if we want to invite some of the kids to continue by coming to the presentations and then all the other stuff that we do before we get to town meeting. And eventually it'd be nice to have one of the high school kids actually present with us on our warrant item. So but
I know Dr. Hunter reached out to me to talk about this, and she was going to actually confer with the teachers and see what level of participation through the school that the kids would, if it's connected to school, the actual school day or credits or something. She was going to look into that and get back to us about that. I haven't heard anything. I just wondered if you had heard anything from her.
I mean, the Rivers and Revolution project is, it's an actual year-long class that they do several projects, and so I thought that would be a natural fit. But maybe Bill could talk to his son and see what his.
I'll speak to him. Yeah, I'll see him this weekend, Ed. I'll bring it up to him, and I'll have him reach out to you. I think it's an interesting idea. It seems to fit within the community structure of their program. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And anyway, so that's the status of what's going on, and I don't know whether anybody else feels like we should just do it, just do the site visits the first year, or wait and see after we've done the site visits whether to have them participate in any further. So.
Well, and I think we do need the support of the schools and the teachers, because we don't have direct access to kids. I have direct access to my own kids, but I don't think they want to come to this. But if we are coordinating with the school teachers and the superintendent, then we can find kids who want to do this. But without their support, there's not really any hope.
Yeah. Well, the one teacher I talked to said that the curriculum basically was set. This is like in June, just the week the school was closing, and but they would like to talk about it in the fall when they get started again. So.
Was the person you talked to Tracy? Was it Tracy?
Yeah, Tracy. I'm sorry. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah. So Will. So I'll talk to Will. He'll be talking to Tracy, and I'll have them reach out and make contact with you.
Because there is a civics education program and a civics education course, and some teachers who are pretty talented who teach that. I've spoken in their classes a couple of times, so I know that exists. But your idea is a wonderful one, Ed, and it'd be fun to pursue it.
Yeah, I just thought we should, reach out to the school a little bit, because what happened last year, this last year. So.
Sure.
That sounds good. Okay, great. Well, we've had a great meeting. We've approved some minutes and talked about out of cycle application language and reviewed our plan and voted on it for now. We're going to change it apparently soon again. We talked about our extension request from Anne that Anne came up with. Hopefully Anne will be collecting more forms from people that have extension requests on them, so we can understand what's happening with our projects after we reviewed our projects. And then we also heard from Mary that we don't need town meeting vote to take back money. So this has been a great meeting. We're going to meet again on September 16th. Thank you all for coming, and have a great weekend.
Beautifully led meeting, Eve. Thank you.